Welcome back. Russell Brand is making headlines for all the wrong reasons. 4 women accusing the comedian of sexual misconduct, including rape, sexual assault and emotional abuse. He is denying all the claims.
It comes following a mammoth 2-year joint investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times and Channel 4 in the UK. And we are joined by media editor at the Sunday Times, Rosamund Urwin, who was part of the team who broke this story. Good morning to you, Rosamund. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's go back to the start. How did all of this come about?
Well, the very first thing I was ever told, and I'm afraid I've worked on it even longer than 2 years. So I was told in 2019, and I didn't have any evidence to go on, but I was told that a number of comedians were raising in their sets that Russell Brand they were using a very strong word about his behaviour towards women. They were accusing him of sexual assault in their sets. And so I started looking into that. And it has been a very, very long road to here. But yes, as you say, we published this weekend.
It almost sounds as though it was a situation almost hiding in plain sight, Rosamund. And a story like yours relies heavily on the evidence of these women. And this is harrowing evidence. It takes quite a bit for them to come forward and talk to you. What was that like?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly hard for people to come forward on something like this. In fact, we used in our headline on the Sunday Times front page, we said hiding in plain sight, because even in Russell Brand's books, he's written things that should have sort of sent alarm bells ringing. There's a line in his second memoir where he says, basically, if this is what I'm admitting to, and this is about his treatment of women, imagine what I'm leaving out.
Wow.
And you just think, that is there. And that was published in 2010. And obviously these allegations are historic. You know, we're talking not particularly historic. We're talking 2006 to 2013 for the main 4 serious sexual assault allegations, one of which is a rape allegation. But we also have emotional abuse in there. We have controlling behaviour. We have a comedian who talks about him biting her face backstage and chasing her, which, you know, there's a whole level of these different behaviours where it's sort of doing things that are outside the norm of most of what we would consider, you know, appropriate behaviour.
Rosamund, 2 women have been crucial to this investigation. Tell us how they're going and what the allegations they brought forward.
So I worked very closely with a woman that we're calling Alice. Under UK law, they have a right to anonymity because they are alleging sexual assault, and in the case of the second woman, rape. Alice was 16 when she was in a relationship with Brand. She accuses him of grooming her. That's how she described it. And a family member of hers described it to me in the exact same way. And they said, and the reason for that is that there are patterns of behaviours that we know that groomers, you know, indulge in. And one of them, well, in fact, lots of them are the exact same. So he would send a car to her school to pick her up and take her out of lessons. He distanced her from her family, from her friends, saying that her friends, you know, would be interested in selling a story on him, so that, you know, she couldn't trust them. So he isolated her from them, she alleges. And then things like he taught her to lie to her parents about who she was with, and sort of coaching her in that. And he got her to save his name in her phone as Carly, so that his number, in her phone as Carly, so that her parents wouldn't know. And, you know, her mum tried to intervene, and this thing of sort of behaviour that's, you know, that's so out of the realm of normality, he kissed her mother on the lips, they allege. So there's a lot there to unpack, and you know, it's very, very upsetting. And the second woman, Nadia, I would say has the strongest evidence I've ever seen in any Me Too story that I've worked on, because often with these stories, you don't have much evidence. Yeah. People, you know, it is for these women the worst thing that has ever happened to them. These, you know, obviously we have to say allegedly, but she had extraordinary evidence in that she went to the Rape Crisis Centre the next day after the alleged rape. And she's worked very closely with my colleague Charlotte Wace, who has put so many hours into this story and corroborating this story. And you know, she's given us her medical notes, you know, and text messages between her and Russell, where she says no means no, and it's obvious from the context that she's saying he wasn't listening to that, and then he apologizes afterwards, and those text messages are extraordinarily powerful. So yes, there has been a lot of work that has gone into this, but also we just couldn't have done it without those two women.
Yeah, it's a painstaking amount of work that goes into this. Obviously, Russell Brand has since denied all these allegations. What happens now to these women?
Well, that is a very good question. So, there's a huge amount of media scrutiny, some of which has been, I would argue, in some of the other papers, slightly ill-judged, because, we have a duty in how we write about sexual assault allegations. And so it is a very, very tough thing to go through. And, it is a lot emotionally. But they are survivors, both of them, and they are being very, very strong. And we shall see, obviously it is up to them whether they want to pursue something in terms of, say, a prosecution, coming forward to the police. We're not at that point yet. But the Met Police in London are telling women to come forward if they want to.
OK, plenty more to come out on this. Rosamund, well done for all your work in this, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Comedian Russell Brand has been accused of sexual misconduct by 4 women in an explosive TV expose. In a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times and Channel 4, Brand is accused of multiple assaults from 2006 to 2013. He denies the claims. For more, we're joined by entertainment reporter Sam Rubin in Hollywood. Good morning to you, Sam. Thank you for being with us. What did this program reveal?
This program revealed what Brand himself has talked about, but in an entirely different context. Russell Brand has talked as part of comedy foil about a deeply promiscuous period in his life, particularly when he was a fairly big movie star here in the States during the years that you described, and he took full advantage of that position and had almost an incalculable amount of partners and sexual escapades. Well, what this TV special is saying is that what Russell Brand joked about was no joke to 4 women who were involved, one who plainly accuses him of rape, the other 3 of sexual assault. One was a minor at the time, just 16 years of age. So this is a question, I suppose, in part of perception, but his reputation has long preceded him. And there are anecdotes that I remember from that period, which were extraordinary. And again, maybe the context is different this period of time post-Me Too versus that period of time pre-Me Too. But he was a bad boy in capital letters. This special thinks it's less frivolous than that it was, again, rape and sexual assault, all not good.
Yeah, that 16-year-old he allegedly referred to as the child, and another one of the accusers was a colleague. She claims he flipped a switch.
This is the story that you heard again and again and again. This very verbose, charming, incredibly elegant and eloquent Englishman then in a private circumstance would say, hey, let's go. And, what are you talking about? And again, I think there's been certainly a pre-Me Too theory that if you are famous and you solicit enough people, X number will acquiesce and say yes. Again, all of what I've just described is probably regarded as highly inappropriate now, maybe less so then. But I think what prompted these women to come forward, they were all approached by reporters from these British media outlets, is Russell Brand has sort of rebranded himself as this kind of reformed bad boy, this wellness expert, does a lot of political commentary that's quite right-wing, involving things here in the States. And I think people thought, you know what, this is completely antithetical, completely contrary to who he has been. He says who he has been was just, this cavalier bad boy who was deeply promiscuous. And these ladies are saying, no, 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 it wasn't as light as that. It crossed a line. Other people are suggesting that this was really the real reason why he was married so briefly to Katy Perry, and that Katy has never spoken about this, but that quote unquote, she left the marriage, again in quotes, knowing the truth. So I'm not sure what that truth is. Again, she hasn't referenced it. I wonder if she might now. The other thing, Tim, that I think might happen is this all broke on the weekend here in the States. When Monday morning rolls around here, do we hear from more people about the misdeeds of Russell Brand.
Yeah, he has flatly denied these allegations. Sam, thanks so much for being with us.
Well, let's head to the international news now. Less than 24 hours after serious assault allegations came to light, Russell Brand has been spotted in London after performing at a comedy show.
Live to 9 Europe correspondent Edward Godfrey in London. Good morning to you, Edward. It seems it's business as usual for the embattled star.
Yeah, Brand performed a live show here in London just hours after those allegations emerged. He was seen leaving the gig at Wembley, where he told the crowd there are some things he can't talk about. There have been some significant developments here in the last few hours. The BBC has now said it's urgently looking into the issues raised by the allegations against him. He worked on BBC radio programmes between 2006 and 2008. Production company Banijay UK has also promised an urgent investigation. That company owns Endemol, which produced Channel 4's Big Brother programme. Also today, charity Trevi Women has cut ties with him, posting on social media the revelations have been difficult to process. This follows, of course, a joint investigation by The Times, the Sunday Times and Channel 4, which aired on Saturday evening local time here. 4 women accusing the 48-year-old of rape and sexual assault between 2006 and 2013 at the height of his fame. UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly was asked about it today.
And I think we have to be particularly careful when we listen to the voices of the people who are relatively powerless, because we, I think, collectively have missed opportunities to do the right thing and intervene much, much earlier.
Alex, Scotland Yard says it's aware of the allegations but is yet to receive any reports. It must be said that Brand strongly denies all of the allegations.
Edward, thank you.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?